What happens when the leading launch pad for meme coins on the Solana chain suddenly starts launching itself? Is that a potential recipe for disaster or a potential opportunity? Let's have a look at some data most people aren't considering. Let's see whether or not Pump.fun, the token of Pump.fun, is worth investing in. It's no surprise, Pump.fun is now the leading token among all the launch pads. It's got a market cap of 2 billion and Radium launches tokens as well. It's known as a decentralized exchange. Here we've only got a market cap of 750 million. There's a lot of controversy around the launch of the Pump token because the platform didn't necessarily benefit everybody. A lot of tokens had been launched, but it's a player versus player game, and over time capital concentrates towards just a few people that might be insiders, that might have more knowledge. The vast majority of players of course lose over time. And because of that, because capital concentrates, if there is no new players entering the space, the activity peaks at some point. And have a look at the number of deployed transactions on Pump.fun. It peaked at the end of January of this year and since then is on a decline. The launchpad clearly helped Solana gain traction again, right? After the FTX collapse, Solana crashed, and the question is, what's the next story? And then it became Memecoin trading. And Pump.fun helped with that. Have a look at the number of transactions on the Solana chain. That's here in black. It grew quite a bit, but then Pump.fun pushed this to another level. But again, now the number of transactions on Pump.fun tend to decline. Thus, as a fraction of all of transactions on the Solana chain, Pump.fun is shrinking. And that's already happening since November of last year. Now, we've been talking about the ecosystem for quite a while. We also discussed various tokens that have been launched with Pump.fun, but this video is about the actual Pump token. And so far, it seems like there's no clear direction price-wise. We have rallied, we have crashed, we have rallied again. Now we are rather low. In the last 24 hours, we had more than 4,000 wallets interacting with the Pump token. The ecosystem itself seems to benefit though. So in the last week, most Pump.fun ecosystem tokens went up and they also outperformed Bitcoin's performance. Here is the decentralized exchange trading volume of Pump.fun, so the US dollars that move hands over time. Again, this peaked in January of this year. Since then is declining quite rapidly. However, interestingly enough, the capital that's on Pump Swap continues to climb. So there are parts of the ecosystem that are actually in expansion. Among all the trending tokens on the Solana chain, Pump is now the second largest token. Number one is of course the Trump token. Trump has been bought by pretty much everybody. Now Pump is at number 2. It's got liquidity of 25 million. Trump has liquidity of more than 300 million. And from the delta, we can already tell that there are quite a few tokens that aren't liquid on the chain. In other words, there are maybe upcoming token unlocks. There's maybe ownership by centralized exchanges. We're going to look at this in a second. On chain, we've got now 38,000 holders. So that's now wallets that have at least a few cents worth of the token, potentially even hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of the token. The tokenomics are not surprising. As in, for Pump.fun ecosystem tokens, we have a stable supply, but usually for ecosystem tokens, for launchpads, for decentralized finance, we tend to see an expanding token supply over time. We are currently at a bit over 400 billion tokens floating around, but over time, tokens will get allocated to the community and then subsequently also to the team starting in July of next year. So that's then where the team unlocks. Now this can be taken with a grain of salt because sometimes those unlocks, they get pre-sold via over-the-counter deals. So if the team wants to get out already now, maybe there are some people that are willing to buy the allocation from the team, get the tokens unlocked in the future, and then hedge that exposure via short positions on the perpetual futures, which then directly depresses the price today. So just because the unlock happens in the future doesn't mean that the selling pressure happens in the future. It can already happen today via the derivatives. But again, those OTC deals are normally not disclosed, and so we can't really know what's going to happen. In general, this kind of supply schedule, it reminds me a little bit of the Trump token, right? We already talked about Trump. It's the leading trending token on Solana. Trump started with 200 million tokens and will then 5x over the years. The Pump token is a bit less aggressive, right? Here the supply will only grow by 2.5x over time. But still, the overall idea is that the demand has to grow at least as quickly as the supply in order for the price to stay stable. We all know what happened to the Trump token even before the official unlocks, right? Trump underperformed Solana quite consistently, and probably it will continue to do so in the future. At least that's what I think. Another parallel with the Trump token is a very similar market cap today. So Trump now has 1.8 billion of market cap and the Pump token has 2 billion of market cap. So those are very similar tokens in terms of its size. Right now, people are excited, and so we continue to see new first-time traders. Today has just started. Let's see if today we will even see more traders than yesterday, or if it's already dying down in terms of momentum. We only know this after 24 hours. And I will continue to make updates on Pump on this channel, so feel free to subscribe over here. We're seeing a slight shift in the trading volume, as in more small retail is now trading the token, less medium-sized and large retail, so the smaller money tends to get in more. And we can see how some of the whale wallets are already taking profit. Now on the left side, we see the number of wallets that have at least 200,000 tokens. In the middle, it's 2 million tokens. On the right, it's 20 million tokens. So that's roughly equivalent to $1,000, $10,000, $100,000. And again, small retail continues buying, medium-sized retail as well. But the whales, they tend to now offload, at least slowly. Here is my prediction. I believe that over time, the centralized exchanges are going to accumulate more and more of the Pump token. Thus, the trading volume is likely going to move away from the decentralized exchanges to the centralized exchanges. The exact same thing happened for the Trump token. Right now, we still have Radium and Pump Swap and Hyperliquid that are all decentralized, that do have significant impact on the spot trading volume. And the perpetual futures aren't yet that relevant, except of course for Hyperliquid. But I think there's a good chance that this will change over time, if attention of course on the Pump token stays high. Most people that are interested in trading the Pump token do so by betting on rising prices, as in the funding rate on the perpetual futures, mainly on Hyperliquid, tend to be positive. So the people are excited about potential price increases. The bets on the price go up sharply. We are now at almost 800 million of open interest. And this is of course interesting for the centralized exchanges as well, right? They want to have a piece of the pie. And interestingly enough, the liquidations of longs and shorts is somewhat balanced. So we are in an equilibrium. We see expanding leverage. And I'm personally not positioning myself in either direction, not long, not short. I don't bet on any direction until the centralized exchanges have enough exposure. When they've got their preferred allocation and when they've launched their perpetual futures as well, then it might make sense gradually to bet on falling prices if the funding rates aren't too high to bet on those falling prices. I believe we'll see a very similar development to what we have seen with the Trump token. At the beginning, a sharp rise, and then gradually, as tokenomics take over, a decline, especially versus Solana. The US dollar price might go up, but relative to Solana, token inflation, at least long term, is always a problem. The platform itself is struggling, the tokenomics are rather aggressive, and it's short-term leverage that keeps up the price for now, and that at some point will deflate as well, pushing down the Pump token. But right now, as said, the market makers are accumulating the token, keeping the price somewhat stable. That's why we don't see any crash yet. I'm not getting tired to mention this. This is the performance of the smaller altcoins in the last year. Pretty much everything went down, while Bitcoin performed very well. Here, just as a reminder, right? Bitcoin in the last year doubled in price. How many of the smaller and more risky altcoins were able to compensate that risk, to actually outperform Bitcoin? This is 100 tokens here on the screen. We've got this outperformer over here. We've got this outperformer over here. All the rest underperformed Bitcoin in the last year. This is 100 assets, so 98 out of 100 assets did worse than Bitcoin. Now there are two potential ways to deal with this. We could either just become Bitcoin maximalists. We just buy Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum and Solana, that's about it, and we forget about all of those other altcoins. But there's also a second way, and that is to take advantage of this mispricing. In the last 3.5 years, the market cap of the altcoins underperformed Bitcoin by 77%. And the reality is even worse than what this chart here implies, because again, this is a comparison of market caps, the Bitcoin market cap versus the market cap of the altcoins. But when we invest into an altcoin, we don't get the performance of the market cap. We get the performance of the price, and there can be a big difference. Usually there is a big difference. This is WorldCoin. This is the market cap of WorldCoin over time. And this is actually not that far away from the all-time high. But compare this to the price development of WorldCoin during the same time. This is very far away from the all-time high. And this is in the end what the retail investor is getting. Why is there this discrepancy? It's because of the tokenomics, right? It's more and more tokens that hit the market. It's the insiders that are cashing out. It's the early investors, the VCs that are cashing out. It's the team that's cashing out. So the teams get more and more tokens allocated towards their wallet, right? They get vesting unlocks, and then those unlocks get sold. So this is the WorldCoin supply over time, right? It moved from 500 million to currently 3.6 billion, more than a 7x in supply. That's what's causing this massive difference. That's why investing in the smaller altcoins is such a bad idea long term. That's why 98% of the altcoins did worse than Bitcoin in the last year. And this is a structural problem of the altcoin market, right? Everybody can launch an altcoin. Everybody can set up any kind of vesting unlock. The supply can grow however it wants. There's no laws around this. There's no regulation around this. And so of course, the average retail investor gets milked over time. The altcoin market needs at least around 500 million, potentially more than that, maybe 600 million in US dollar inflows every single week in order to keep the prices just stable, right? This is the unlocks across the tracked tokens on this website. Without the demand coming into the altcoin market at that rate, we continue to see this kind of development because again, there's just constant sell pressure happening. And so let's say our thesis is that this structure will not change, right? That the VCs will continue to dump on the retail investor, that the insiders will continue to cash out, that most small altcoins will continue to do worse than Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. We could just stay away from the altcoin market as a whole, or we could try to make money from that. And that's what I'm personally doing. I try to take advantage of this opportunity. I'm trading in this way already for more than 4 years. And what we're seeing over here in black, that's my performance that I made compared to if I had just dollar cost averaged into Bitcoin. So dollar cost averaging is in light gray, and the black line, that's what I made. And this is just monthly data out of my personal Excel sheet. It's close to 4 years of data now. So the TLDR is that I bet on relative valuation. So I bet on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana going up, and I bet on all of those crappy small altcoins to go down, relatively speaking. I do 2 positions at the same time. Long, one thing, short, one thing. So in the end, the position is delta neutral. It's not impacted by the overall market that much. I used to do this with borrowing and lending platforms like Aave and Venus Finance. Now, recently, in the last 2.5 months, I moved this to perpetual futures. And that experiment is going very well. So here's the development over time. I started with 40K in balance and that moved to 60K. So 50% of return in roughly 2.5 months. And there wasn't too much volatility along the way while making those gains. I am sharing my own trades as well. So that example of WorldCoin, right? I actually made money from that. So I posted how I was betting on falling prices of WorldCoin, how the tokenomics of WorldCoin aren't that great, and doing a relative valuation bet might make a lot of sense. And so that was when the price was over here, and of course the rest is history. WorldCoin relative to Ethereum went down by 40%. And if you then have smart leverage, right? Leverage that is limited in risk because of the use of stop losses, etc., we can make a lot of gains. So this is then when the community copy traded that particular position. Yeah, I always like these kinds of comments, right? Premium has already paid for itself, etc. But the community does not just copy trade me, right? There's all kinds of opportunities, and those opportunities are shared in the different chats as well. And so there are 2 ways to go about this, right? Either you just learn it yourself, you do the active trading, you figure out what kind of altcoins are incredibly inflationary in nature, which kind of altcoins tend to go down versus Bitcoin the fastest, then exchange the ideas with the community and open up the positions yourself. So that's the best approach if you don't yet have that much capital, but you do have some time. So there are 2 essential videos for that. There is this one here, using perpetual futures on Hyperliquid to bet on relative valuations. And there's this video over here, risk management with relative valuation bets on Hyperliquid. So there is 2 tutorial videos among a database of all kinds of exclusive content. And so that's the do-it-yourself approach, right? That's currently $125 per month. And if you don't like premium, just message me within the first week and I'll refund you 100%, no questions asked. But if you're among the people that have a lot of capital, but not that much more time, that maybe have to focus on a high-paying job or on a business, and simply just want to allocate towards that strategy, then you can also just automatically copy trade me. This is still somewhat experimental, right? We just started this 2.5 months ago, but that's reserved to the people that subscribe to the annual membership, where, by the way, you also get savings of $250 per year. You can start out with monthly and then upgrade to yearly later, or if you don't want to learn from the very beginning, just start out with yearly, that's fine too. You will get all the instructions on how to deposit to the capital pool, and then all the trades that I make will automatically reflect towards your capital base as well. Of course, I don't have the guarantee that we continue to make money, but in general, I do believe that the odds are on our side. Again, we make money when the altcoins continue to do worse than Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana. And I do believe that's a structural problem with the market. There's constant sell pressure across the board, and some assets are worse than others. And that's where the real outperformance is, right? It's not in the common strategies trying to find the next 100x altcoin, right? This is how everybody gets burned. This is how everybody loses their funds. Please don't make that mistake. Please do something different to the masses, right? If you do the same things as the masses do, then you get the same return as everybody else. And again, returns are very much concentrated towards just a few players in the market. The vast majority of people loses, especially trying to find the next 10 or 100x meme coin. A link to premium should pop up directly over here on the screen. Just click on that. It will lead you directly to the website. If it's your very first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish these regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube, or see you in premium. Cheers.